nuclear enjoyed a change of image at some point. When was that, and who was behind it? Who was steering this sort of reinvention of the greenness of nuclear power?
So just to be clear, nuclear was green originally, then tarnished. So it was more like a reverting back to form. But it happened because Russia invaded Ukraine. And so all the green promises of solar and wind, when they got their little cable cut to Russian oil and gas, they realized that this is actually not going to work. Our cities are going to go dark, people are going to freeze, and they turned around and went, we really actually need nuclear energy. So in order to justify this change, the European Union's like, it's okay, we've said it's green. Therefore, it doesn't matter what else fear-mongering is going on, it's green, so it's fine. And that is exactly what happened. And it happened, I think, in 2019 or something. It started, and in 2022 is where they formalised this, yep, definitely going green.
How do these big organisations like the United Nations and the European Union and the World Economic Forum fit into this?
Well, they were part of the push for renewables. So they were happy to jump on board this. We want to try and decommission nuclear. We're not happy about the risk of nuclear. So they started all this rhetoric and studies, and the UN was a bit confused. They were half-half. The European Union was going more with the politicians in Europe. So they were following people like Merkel and all the rest of them, saying we need to get rid of nuclear because, you know, it's not going to be useful anyway, they said. That solar and wind would cannibalise the system and we don't need nuclear, which is of course not true. So they were more of a pressure point. They influenced the individual nations about it just by being shirty at their little conferences. They're like, if you still got nuclear, and they give each other a bit of a hard time, and that's how you end up with bad policy.
So all the people behind this sort of clumsy equivocation over what was best are now telling Europeans to be careful with the energy that they consume. It's a bit hypocritical, isn't it?
Well, they've actually come off worse for wear. So they had a strong nuclear energy solution. They had plenty of energy in Europe, but now they've got less nuclear power because they've got to catch up from what they closed down. They've got all this wasteful solar and wind, and they've got no Russian oil and gas, or very much diminished. And so in order to say that you're being environmentally friendly and to hide the problem they've created with the grid, they're saying you have to get used to having less. You have to get used to things costing more, and you're being environmental if you're poor, basically.
Now, Alexandra, call me cynical, this sounds awfully similar to the road the Albanese government is taking Australia down. Would that be right?
Absolutely, except we don't have nuclear to shut down, so instead the Albanese government is pretty much saying you can't have nuclear, because he knows the second that Australia opens nuclear power plants, and just quietly, we are the safest place in the world and the cheapest place for nuclear power. We have all the uranium. It makes us geopolitically secure, and we won't require a made-in-China power grid with solar and wind. So they can't possibly allow nuclear into this grid. So they're saying we've got this energy deficit created by closing fossil fuel plants. That must be immediately filled by renewables, otherwise we'll go dark. Well, that's not true. You could fill it with nuclear and then close all the other renewable plants and be happy.